Thank you. Thank you. It's a real honor and to get to talk to you at such a great hour. And you guys are amazing. You're phenomenal. But it's great of you to come out. I'm humbled by your presence here this morning, and to see so many great friends. Boy, the diversity in terms of connections in my life are like really fantastic here right now. So I'm kind of looking around, going, "Oh boy, hey, I want to have breakfast with you." So anyway, it's good to see you all. So she did a lot of my introduction. Wilson Smith, I'm a, like she had mentioned, I've been at Nike now 28 years. And it was the pleasure early on for me as a designer to work on primarily tennis and basketball product. After I started doing product design, initially my background's architecture, but I started doing product design. And it was really exciting to work on that. And as she mentioned, many of the athletes, in particular people like Serena Williams or Andre Agassi, and I got to work on a couple Air Jordans too, which was very cool, in working with those athletes, with Michael Jordan. But it's been a great thing. But since then, I had an opportunity actually in '07 to move into what we call the zoo at Nike. So it's the Nike Zoo. And just to explain to you what the zoo is all about, the zoo stands for Special Other Operations. Now the zoo is something that was put together by Bill Bowerman, and the company was started by Bill Bowerman and Phil Knight. And so Bill Bowerman was the coach at University of Oregon, the track coach. And he had these things, special other ops that he did. And so it was the idea of potentially doing things a little bit outside the box of your standard operations. So we, instead of SOO, which isn't all that exciting, we flipped the S and it became a Z. So we're in the Nike Zoo. And one of the fun things, actually, a couple of my fellow designers here, Doug Wilkins and then John Lavix, former designer, is we've all kind of worked in this design process at Nike for a long, for our careers. But it's interesting to have opportunity then to move into another area. And John Lavix was one of the friends who we worked together on some of these projects in my career back in '07. It was so long ago. But anyway, it's been really fun thinking about, as they gave me like a title of creative catalyst, which I think is kind of vague, but the thing that I love about it is that I think it speaks about collaboration. It speaks about that it's really not about you. You're kind of a part of something that's much bigger than yourself. And that's what I think a lot of business has done today, and new ways that we approach business. I feel like I get to be a part of products, projects, processes that educate in the way they are created, and cause you to think in different ways, not just the actual fun stuff we get to do. And it's been cool over the years to create products and things that people wear, but it's been really fun lately to be working on these pieces that I think are more about building up people and building up other opportunities outside of maybe just the product. So it's been a real exciting process. The first one I want to speak about was this N7, which was this native project, which she mentioned in the intro. And N7, which was something that, once again, that John Lavix and I worked on, not to mention him several times, but it's good to see him here. Anyway, N7 is about, the term is Native 7, and 7 stands for consider the impact of your decisions on 7 generations. So it's all about a sustainable thought. It's a much broader thought that way. And all the monies, the funds go towards, the monies that are made through the N7 project go towards the N7 fund, which provides access to sport for Native American youth, and really starts to encourage that the community gets over issues like type 2 diabetes and some of the struggles within the Native American community. And so Native and Aboriginal in Canada. And so it's been a real exciting project, and they inspire us towards sustainability, thinking of 7 generations. If you're going to create something that's going to last for that long, you're really thinking beyond a lot of our foresight these days. Everybody leaves a footprint, and so it's been really, really inspiring working on this Nike N7. And I brought a print from what we call our Nike Better World Manifesto. I gave it to my friend Jeff here. I only have about 15 of the copies. A few of you. You can also download this online at NikeBetterWorld.com. But I just wanted to read this because I think it's a pretty exciting way of thinking, beyond just do it, thinking Nike Better World. So it says, don't tell us what we can't do. Don't tell us not to dream. Big, fat, hairy, audacious dreams, like making the world better through sport. Sport is our passion. Sport inspires hope, instills discipline, reduces depression and disease. It raises self-confidence. It raises awareness, rallies communities, defines nations, defies gravity, and denies prejudice. Sport laughs in the face of racism. It flicks a towel on sexism's ass and kicks sand in the face of discrimination. It makes neck hairs stand to attention. Hell, it's even been known to stop wars. That's a pretty impressive resume. Sport, you're hired. We won't rest until every living, breathing person on this planet has access to it. And we won't stop making the best gear to propel humanity forward without wrecking our global playground in the process. We will do good with a vengeance. And to all the cynics and the naysayers, we're going to make the world better for you anyway. Because like sport, we don't discriminate. We've made the world better, but we still want a better world. Nike Better World. But anyway, it's I think it's a really cool manifesto and a cool way of thinking a little outside the box in terms of what business, how to go about business, especially thinking in terms of Nike Better World. And I think that sums it up in some of the things that I've been excited about in terms of access to sport and the role that can play. I think the sport is extremely important. I think we all kind of know the importance of it. But I would say, I think whatever your business is, it also plays a very key cog in the universe, no matter what you're kind of called to, whatever you're a part of. And I think that you operate best within that wheelhouse. So in our case, it's sport. I wouldn't be as crazy to think that that's the answer to everything, by no means. But it's an area that we can really work on. And I'd say in your own respective areas, that's also what you can, you can really have an impact in your world. I got to work on a project at Roosevelt High School. This was a local high school, of course, in North Portland. I'm sure a lot of people here know of Roosevelt. And this was one of those amazing collaboration pieces. I think the thing I want to say most about this was, I was thinking about relationships. That's what this spoke to me. Relationships is like the currency of getting things done in the world. It's about having relationships. What would I say about this? When we started in on this project, Nike had already been approached from Roosevelt and Portland Public Schools, and actually Nike had a vision to really create 10 great fields. So they were really already involved in doing some work in the city. But Roosevelt was one of those schools that was just really down and out. 20% of the school students are homeless, 40% are I think it's 60% that qualify for the federal school lunch program, which is 3 meals a day. So it's kind of an amazing, fairly downtrodden school. The girls' basketball team would play, and there's like 10 people show up, and they would lose, 75-9 or something. So it was just a really, and it was one of those schools that was just about ready to close. Well, Kevin Palau, this is how we got involved. Kevin Palau came to me at Nike and asked me if Nike could do a season of service project. And the season of service was something that the Palau Association was putting together a few years ago to go out and really serve the community during the summer. So it was a summer season of service. Well, different companies and everybody was doing their season of service projects. And when we got together with a group of Nike middle management, one of the gentlemen in there, a guy named Mike Bergman, he said, "Hey, I just got heard from my development director friend out of Roosevelt High School that they have this great need for a new field and all this kind of refurbishing." And so we were talking about that as a possibility of a season service project. Well, it ended up that Kevin ended up talking to my pastor at Southlake Church. Southlake got involved hugely. I mean, totally had one focused vision. And I have to mention them because, well, once again, it's that collaboration piece. You know, there was like several people involved in this. They had 1,000 people who showed up at the season of service, cleaned up the school, did it 3 years in a row now, show up at all the games. We brought infrastructure into the school in terms of mentoring, in terms of coaching and all sorts of things that we're doing there. So it's really exciting, you know, supporting their programs. And so it's really cool. Now, also, meanwhile, Nike got really involved and we actually built a new field there. And so this is like an image of the field. And, you know, we put in a field, and this is kind of the before shots. And so now Roosevelt has become like this stellar, in the middle of the community. This is this amazing, healthy thing in North Portland, and it's a real exciting. It's outlined in the Christianity Today of this month too. So it's kind of fun of November. So it's just been a really fun project. But the collaboration has been the city government, the Portland Public Schools, South Lake Church, Nike. All these entities have been involved, and I think as long as you don't need the recognition, as long as you don't need that, this was my idea and I'm doing this, as long as you can move off from that platform, there's amazing things. Probably, you know, it multiplies exponentially what can be done if you're willing to collaborate and if you're willing to back down off of that possibility of it's not about me kind of thing. Because it really isn't. It has, I mean, it has so little to do with me, to be honest with you. The other day, they were taking a picture. They took a picture of me there once for Christianity Day. But when I went down to the field, it was my first time actually going to the field. So to me, that was kind of like saying, you know, it's really about all these other people who have been involved doing it. I actually didn't even get a chance to get there to that point. I'm just saying that to say that, you know, you get to kind of get in, but get out of the way. Okay, I'll keep talking because I know I've got a short period of time here. Wanted to talk also about, oh yeah, I did last thing I have to say about Roosevelt. I mean, now they're in the playoffs this year. Amazing. They have not been in any playoffs at all forever, and now they're like this team that's really playing great. The kids really believe in themselves. You're much more impacted by the people who believe in you than the other people that you believe in. I mean, when people believe in you and when you invest in the lives of people, they're much more impacted by that than by, you know, anybody they can be inspired by, Michael Jordan or whoever. They're going to be much more inspired if you believe in them. And that's what I think has happened at Roosevelt. Similar, there's the relationship right after that happened with the Haiti concept and what we were working on in Haiti, but it's just kind of a much bigger scale. And my friend J.P. Chevalier is here. He's actually from Haiti, and a really interesting man. And he just came back recently from there, and he's really connected with the government and everything in there. And you know, he's been part of this team, but. At Haiti, you know, after the devastating earthquake in January of 2010, the way that Nike got involved was we really are part of both, Architecture for Humanity is one of our NGOs, non-government organizations that we support, Architecture for Humanity and Mercy Corps. And when, when Architecture for Humanity, their director, a guy named Cameron Sinclair, he actually called Nike and contacted them and said, hey, we don't just want your money, we want your design thinking. So he was saying that they wanted to go beyond just what Nike could give them, but they wanted to get some Nike thinking into it. And that's, to me, that's kind of that call, that better world kind of call, something beyond just ourselves. And that was pretty exciting. So we ended up gathering a team of Nike designers. We were brainstorming for months, and then eventually we had about 4 of us got to go down and visit Haiti in May of 2010. And we went there and just kind of kept our minds open, just kind of thinking of what could be the possibilities, what could we do? And it was really exciting. It's amazing how much, in this case, sport brings hope. As I kind of read about this sport piece, I think people were like, wow, Nike's in town. There was kind of a buzz going on because we were there, and it was kind of a fun thing that way. But also just that there's a psychological thing that sport can bring to a devastation, like when you're recovering from disaster, that many people were experiencing in the world of soccer. For example, it was interesting. They said the number one requested need from all of the communities when they were looking for stuff after the earthquake, the number one request that came into the NGOs and everything was for soccer balls. Now, what I think is interesting about that is I think, of course there's all the substance needs that are much bigger in life, but sport is a psychological advantage that people can arise out of their situation. And I think as long as the kids are playing, a lot of times that's the beginning of the life of the community once again. And so I believe they really saw the value of that. And you would see when we travel there, you'd see many of the tent cities or the cities that were rebuilt with tents. And there would always, they may be densely populated, but there would always be like a big, huge space gap left for a soccer pitch. So you'd have and everybody's they're playing soccer. And it brought a sense of normalcy to life. I mean, it almost was palatable in a really, I won't say that, but let's just say that it brought a sense that life was, that some normalcy or something was going on. So as we were there, it was kind of fun. I got to observe a couple of aha moments, was what I call it, in terms of inspiration. And I love that when you're it happens to a lot of us as designers, where all of a sudden you're just kind of sketching or something, and all of a sudden, that's it, aha! You got to get an idea. I was with a friend of mine, this guy named Tom DeBlasis, who was another Nike designer, and we were there with a gentleman from a group called Waves for Water. And Waves for Water are these surfer guys who bringing clean water to the world, and so through some of their programs. So anyway, but the leader, a guy named John Rose with Waves for Water, and Tom DeBlasis, we were all just sitting up there, just kind of brainstorming what kind of thing could we do here, because we're just kind of in the midst of kind of the devastation. And Tom, who happens to be a design director in soccer, all of a sudden, in the moment, he said, he was thinking about, for example, Waves for Water. I'll explain what they have. They have this bucket, and the bucket is like a water filtration system. And at the base of the bucket, there's actually a hole in it, but this one doesn't have a hole in it. But anyway, there's a hole, and there's a ceramic filter. And so you get a tarp, and you basically, the water comes through the tarp and fills up the bucket, but actually goes through the ceramic filter and go into the next bucket, and you end up with enough water for sustaining 100 people for upwards of 5 years. That's how long the filter is. So it's a good water filter, ceramic filter. And so there was this Waves for Water bucket that they're doing, and Tom's like, well, hey, what if you fill it with like soccer balls and all kinds of stuff to do like like a soccer pitch, and there's cones, there's a pump here, and everything that you need to basically do a soccer pitch, and then you also can set up the tarp, and on the tarp, eventually we want to have instructions on soccer, but soccer pitch, but also talking about clean water and really messaging around the clean water reality. And so, it's just kind of this fun thing. We had like 30 of these initially in Haiti that were really successful, and now there's like 500, and then we've got and Tom has these now going around to different countries and different. He just came back from India, and so there's just a lot of kind of excitement going on around this kind of simple project. The thing that I think to me is kind of funny is once again, I don't think that sports is the savior of the world. It isn't, but I think it's our wheelhouse, and that's what you operate strongest in, is your wheelhouse. So think about your wheelhouse and what is gonna be the answer there. So that's really fun, and so we end up having two projects that were around water. There was the bucket, which is really the kind of booming and kind of fun, and to me that's Nike design thinking. And we also started noticing that as the communities, they're basically, as I was saying, I saw them kind of having this soccer pitch area open in the middle. And what about building community around sport, but also thinking about water? So this would be a second water project. And the idea was to create a rainwater court. And so this is like just a drawing of, of what a rainwater court could be like. But basically, you have the dimensions of a soccer pitch or basketball court, and then the water comes off the roof and is collected in the side here. So it becomes like a giant version of this for the community. So this is something that we've been working on. So there's that one. This is an example. We've done this rainwater court because Architecture for Humanity has a deal with Nike, what we call there's a Game Changers Fund that basically can be put together to create access to sport or issues throughout the globe. And this was one that was done in Africa, in Kenya. We actually initially wanted this project in Haiti, and then it ended up that we couldn't quite get it in Haiti initially, but now I'll say my punchline right now. We actually have 2 communities that we're working on in Haiti to build this, and we're getting ready to go for it, and that's just happening shortly. Not this exact same one, because this design is more for Africa. The way it is, you take water off the roof, and then these big bins are water collectors. So basically, you can take water directly out of that. And it was really great on the when recent rainfall fell, there was like 15,000 liters of drinking water that came out of the one rainfall. So it's amazing clean water is really a doable thing in the globe. I mean, there's major issues from disease without it, but it's something we can really get after if we just work smart in that way. And so anyway, that's been a fun project, and this is like a kind of a proposal, or at least a picture, an image of some of what we're looking at in Haiti in terms of the communities, and this is kind of a quick kind of sketch drawing, but it basically speaks of, in the middle we had what was called a butler building. Those buildings are very easy to put up, but they're strong, they're metal, and one of the good things about a steel building, that's what happened in the problem with the earthquake, was that, earthquakes don't kill people. It's bad buildings that kill people, really. And that earthquake was very similar to the earthquake that happened in San Francisco. It was only just slightly larger, like 7.3 instead of 7.1. But, 250,000 people were killed, 250 to 300,000 compared to 63 people in San Francisco because the buildings were better. And so anyway, but the notion of like structure, if you can create a strong structure, but also make it indigenous somehow to the community. So that's another thing, is to really work with the communities, and that's what we've been busy doing, is working with these communities to make sure that what we build would be something they would own and believe in. So I feel I probably exceeded. I'm still there? Wow, time. Okay, I must be talking fast. So anyway, so that's a couple of the projects, around water, like in Haiti, and the bucket, the rainwater court, and just the notion of how, I think the notion of better world, once again, is something I think we're all a part of. That's not, I think to me, this is as motivational as just do it. Just do it meant something for us on a personal level, especially probably, 10, 15 years ago. I mean, but I think that this is kind of what I think we're all, let's just do it together, and so there we go. I'll leave it at that.
Covered a lot of ground in your short time, so I'm sure there are a lot of questions. We have a few minutes for that. So, questions for Wilson?
How can we volunteer for these types of projects?
Ooh, you're getting an army here. How can we volunteer for these types of projects?
That's exciting. Good question. Well, okay, let me see now. Maybe I'll give you my card. I don't know that it's, once again, a lot of times when something's kind of percolating, all of those kind of channels aren't completely, determined yet. But if you go to NikeBetterWorld.com, I'm sure there's some links and some connections there. And, there is, as far as like the bucket project, and there are ways to give money into the bucket project. And so anyway, I think there's I'll give you my card. Sorry.
Other questions? So
Well-
are these projects all funded by Nike or other sources?
Are these projects funded by Nike? So the great thing about the bucket, it actually is about a $50 bucket. When you fill it with what we fill it with, it pushes it up to about $75, $85, something like that. And Nike employees can actually have been giving into sponsoring a bucket, or a department does a couple buckets or something. So people, and in particular Nike Design, has been involved in giving to it. And so we'd love to get it even down to like a reasonable price, under 50 or something, and which would be kind of interesting, because then it almost acts like this, this that goes for cancer research. Is there this $1? But say if $50 went towards health and happiness and water for the world, then that could be a pretty decent deal. So that's what we're basically setting up, that kind of program.
Okay. Explain a soccer pitch.
Okay,
That's
a soccer
new terminology for us.
Explain a soccer pitch. So a soccer pitch is basically the dimensions, the footprint of a soccer field. So basically, they call it a pitch. So that's that global. In fact, it's probably a football pitch or something. I don't know. but for clarity, it's a soccer pitch. Yeah. So it's just the dimension, which actually is very much aligns with the dimensions of a basketball court too. So it's very similar. So they work well together.
How have been going through these collaborations affected you personally?
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I like to think of my journey as being right now on kind of a really fun, almost divine path, or I feel really excited about what's going on personally. There was a point in time in my career where I honestly felt like I was done. I felt kind of like I had been through this chapter and I was done, and I really believe in '07, when the doors opened for me to come into the zoo, and I was really embraced and allowed to kind of pursue some of these personal passions, that I felt like my career, not to use a term, but I'll use it, has been born again. I feel like my career has started over again in a lot of ways, and in a brand new way. And so it's been really fun personally. And even now I'm getting back into designing some more shoes too. I'm still trying to keep the shoe projects, something that kind of keeps the bottom line going forward. I got to keep doing that, or else, eventually that could be an issue. So I'm working on that. But the things I'm so excited about, I tell you, are just some of these Better World projects and the opportunities with U of O, and it's been so much personally. I mean, I just feel like, wow, I'm so excited about Nike once again, and I'm hoping that some of this really gets good traction and really takes off, because I think it is the way to do business. I think that giving out, you are going to ultimately get back hundreds of times more for everything that you give out. And it is not tangible, it's not the way the bottom line looks, but it's the thing that really, I think, blesses a business. I think it's the thing that really, causes it to flourish. So that's kind of collaboration. So, yes, sir, Eric.
All right, I got a loaded question for you.
Loaded, thanks, buddy. I'm going to get you later.
What inspires you?
Oh, what inspires you, Wilson?
What inspires me?
Everybody gets inspired in different ways, and I was just curious as to how you
I was going to get really esoteric and say, people smile. Someone's smile inspires me. People inspire me. I think what inspires me? As a designer, I tend to like things that are unusual and kind of unexpected, and things that just kind of challenge. Oh, I hadn't seen that before, quite in that composition, and daringly different, dare to be different. That inspires me. So generally stuff that's kind of just slightly left of center, or maybe considerably left of center, will inspire me. So that's what kind of, I think, in terms of just pure design or something. And then it's really great if it also has meaning behind it. If it's not just an intentional kind of, whatever aberration. But so I'd say, things that are that way, and also just, I do think the people piece is, really having the opportunity to try to do something tangible, no matter what it is. I mean, this stuff is all so small. I'm sure that a guy like JP could articulate the issues in Haiti. It's so hard to scratch the surface. But just being a part of it as humanity and trying to embrace it is extremely inspiring and challenging.
So there's a local football field that's been made with regenerated or reused shoes. And what's the future look like for sport courts or football fields?
Absolutely. No, that's great. Well, that almost felt like a plant question from Nike. That's a good question. No, actually, that's a fantastic question because Nike Grind is one of the things that we make out of ground up materials of shoes. And a lot of times if you can start out with a design of a shoe that's maybe all of one material, then it's much easier than to grind it up. One of the issues sometimes that you're dealing with kind of separating the shoes, and the separation process may use more energy than actually grinding and doing all the benefit that you ultimately want to do. But if you can start out with one material, this may be too deep, but start off with one material, and then the whole notion of reusing shoes and grinding up your product is really the way it should be. I mean, it needs to be, if you can close the loop 100% and recycle, create a sport court, or create whatever you're going to create a surface or create whatever you can do, that's ideal. So I think that is the future indeed. And I think that the great thing about Oregon is that we're like on the leading edge of that. And so I think businesses in Oregon embracing sustainability is really what it's all about. Oregon as a university, they have a big Sustainable Cities initiative, and they're all about sustainability. And so that, I just think we're pioneers when it comes to that, and we're the ones who are out there. So I think embracing that and going for that is the future. So does that answer that question?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.